Oh, the tears were just running and coming off his chin.
Uh-huh.
And he comes up to where I'm at and he says, "You're going to win me back to God. I know you're going to win me back to God."
Just out of the blue.
And he was there every Saturday. And if I broke a
Oh.
guitar string, he went and bought one.
Oh,
You know, and
Yeah.
but he had cancer. He had all those marks on his face, you know. And
yeah.
he was at the, where's it the soldiers go? The soldiers' place up there in Dayton. I forget what that's
Is it
called.
the vet hospital? Or,
Anyway, somehow or another, he wanted me to come there. And they got in touch with me.
uh-huh.
And so I went, and I ministered to those soldiers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a letter somewhere that told me I can come back anytime I want.
Oh, yeah.
And just went out there and talked to them and ministered to them. And they had a big stage out there, you know, where I could work
Yeah.
from and everything.
Wow. Wow.
Just so many things and experiences that you will never have
Wonderful. Oh.
if you don't just obey God, and you never know where you're going. So like Abraham,
Yeah.
you know, when God called him out of his country, and it said he knew not where he was going.
Yeah.
He didn't know where God was leading him. He just went.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know, but
Yeah.
he's leading you to good things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't follow, you're going to miss something wonderful in your life.
Mm-mm.
You need to listen. You need to listen for God. God is, I believe God's speaking to all of us, especially today.
Yeah.
What does God want you to do? Do you know what God wants you to do?
Mm.
Listen to Him and just do what He says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do what He says. That's all you have to
That's
do.
all we got to do.
I mean,
Be
when He
obedient.
called those people, you know, they couldn't read or write.
Mm-hmm.
They were just nobodies according to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they obey. I mean, of course, you know, some of them was doctors, but lawyers, tax collectors, all kinds of people. And God is still doing the same thing. Even a tax collector can get saved,
Yeah.
no matter how many times he's cheated.
Exactly.
And you take old Zacchaeus up that tree, you know, he's just that little guy. But I wondered how many Christians Jesus passed before that thought he should go home with them. Before he got to that tree and looked up there and went home with Zacchaeus, you know.
Yeah.
And but as he's getting down that tree, buddy, he was repenting. You know, I'll pay back everything I've took. I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you need. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how he found Jesus. But it is such an interesting, wonderful, beautiful, undescribable
Yeah.
way to live.
Yeah.
It is.
I remember Dad telling me not long before he passed away, he said, when God called me to preach, I almost said no. And he said, I'm so glad I didn't. I would have missed the greatest adventure of my whole life. And that really stuck with me. And that's the same kind of thing I'm hearing you say.
I'll tell you something else he did that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Ella's, your Aunt Ella,
Mm-hmm.
her only son passed away, and she had been through so much with him. They'd had to take out his tongue and everything, cancer. She had been through so much with him, and when he died, her only son. And she had to have somebody do the funeral. Well, she started dealing with the pastor down here where I go to church, and he agreed to do the funeral. And so we had it all set up, and the viewing, the night of the viewing, 1 hour before the viewing, Karen was there. 1 hour before the viewing, we got a call, not from the man himself, his sister. He didn't have the nerve to call. He had her to call an hour before that viewing and say he wasn't going to be able to stay. And I'm thinking, how am I going to tell her this?
Oh, yeah.
You know, her heart is broken. This is the viewing. Everybody's there, and he can't stay. And so, you know, we went, you know, me and Karen, we made sure there was food, you know, for people to eat if they wanted to before the viewing and all. And people came, people she'd worked with and all kinds of people. And this guy here, he came, him and his sister. And they sang a couple songs. Now, he was a good singer, but I didn't ask her to come.
Yeah.
She was the one who called and said he couldn't stay. And she told me, she said, now, I don't want him to preach you. I just want him to, you want to talk about that person.
Yeah.
But nothing was said about the person.
Yeah.
He got up in the pulpit, and the first thing he said was his name. And I'm a singer, and I'm a pastor, and I'm a songwriter. Who cares? This is a viewing. We're not here to adore you.
No.
But that was the situation.
Yeah.
And but thank God they were there, because
Yeah.
all the people were there.
Sure.
And he stayed just a little bit. And I'm sorry now, but I think I gave him something like $200 myself. And they gave him, I don't know how much they gave him. And for doing nothing, really.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what in this world are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And you look around, and there comes Paul.
Oh.
There comes Paul. I was so happy to see him for no reason other than to see him.
Oh.
But I told him the situation, and I said, can you do the graveside and stuff like that? He said, I'll be glad to.
Oh.
I'll be here, I'll be glad to. And he did. He came, and he finished that funeral,
Mm-hmm.
and he did the graveside, and he read the thing about if you wake up without me.
Oh, he loved that.
Oh, it's the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah.
It was so moving. He did such a wonderful job.
Oh.
He was just outstanding, wasn't he, Bucky?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He did such a wonderful job and didn't want to take it down.
Oh.
But I had $50 left, I think, and I made him take it, but he didn't want to. He didn't want nothing for it.
Oh.
And he just did. I never forgot that. He was there.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
He was there.
Well,
That's what ministers do.
yeah.
That's what
yeah.
God's people do.
That's the example.
They're
right
there. They go
yeah.
out of their way
Yeah.
to try to do the work of God.
Yeah.
And to help somebody.
Yeah.
What a fiasco
It
that
ain't
would
about
have been.
them.
Oh, I
and
tell you.
they can sing it, that they can do.
He never said a word about himself.
Yeah.
Never said
That's
his
how
name.
it
Never
ought to
said. He just started talking about
That's it.
what he should have been doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was wonderful.
Wow.
Just wonderful.
I'm glad you shared that with me. I